chair, the wheel falls off.
Yeah, I figured that out.
You have another check chair.
Copy of what changes
I know,
you
I
made.
haven't been in here.
Nope, just the one that Deb sent me. Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Today's September 14th and everybody's here except Lonnie. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 10th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 19th?
So moved.
Do a second.
Second.
All in favor? All right, we're gonna go into new business. I'm gonna move a couple things around. We're gonna move Bruce C, Public Safety Recognition, up to the first one, please, if we could. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good evening. So I'd like to start off, give a real brief overview of an incident we had recently, and get some thank yous out there to the folks that helped us out and made this possible. The 10th of August, we were summoned at about 3:14 in the afternoon to a single engine response for a smoke investigation. I happened to be headed from the office to town hall up the backside of the lake, and I looked up just as they said the approximation of the address and said, oh, that's not just a smoke investigation, it was a column of black smoke. So we upgraded the call quickly to a desk box assignment, which brings mutual aid. That's our structural fire response in layman's terms, I guess. And eventually we ended up with over 10 departments involved, including us, Casco, New Gloucester, Wyndham, Standish, Gray, Poland, Otisfield, and an unheard of Westbrook in town. Actually on scene fighting the fire, and many other departments, including Gorham, North Yarmouth, Cumberland, etc., who backfilled other stations. I understand it even reached as far as Freeport. Unfortunately, that's becoming the norm, just to get 30 firefighters on scene. Of course, today, if you remember back in that time frame, it was about a 92-degree day with about 99% humidity. So we were wearing our firefighters out really, really quickly. We quickly depleted all our drinking water on scene, and I called Don and I called Nathan to see what we could do about getting some more drinking water brought to the scene. And shortly thereafter, we had Don walking up the driveway with a 5-gallon drinking jug from town hall, and Public Works had gone to the dollar store, I believe, in Bridgeton, and loaded his truck up with cases of water and gallon jugs and cups and everything, so we could get them back here for the crews who were quickly going into rehab, and not so quickly coming out because they were quickly dehydrating themselves. We had a couple folks that were treated in the ambulances that were there by mutual aid crews, etc., and then put back into the operation. All in all, the operation was a big success. We had the chief of Wyndham at the boat landing down on Crescent. He was pumping water with their engine. He was alone. He was filling tank trucks. The tank trucks that were running back to the scene at 505 Webb's Mills or White House Farm Lane. It's his other name, I guess. And Deputy Chief Holmquist was there from Gray running that end of the water supply. On scene itself, we had primarily us, Wyndham, and Gray units at first, and at the very beginning we had 3 of us who were actual firefighters and 1 probationary. And that was about the first 15 minutes with that small of a crew. We all did some extravagant work, I guess, or extreme work, and got hose lines in place, and it made the difference in saving this 1800s farmhouse from the garage and the barn that was burning. But all in all, I wanted to get that out there, that we sent out thank you notes after the fact to all those departments, thanking them for their efforts and their sweat, literally. And I just wanted to come here tonight to make sure that we did that officially, and that there's another thank you that really needs to be made. After the fire was over and we're picking up, and I'm looking down the driveway, and I had already summoned, actually, Nate, you'd been back and forth 3 times, I think, at that point. Yeah. We called him in to help tear part of the building down with the backhoe, which he did, and we sacrificed the hydraulic line and part of his windshield on his backhoe, rear window on the backhoe, because a piece of building came off and hit it. Then he had to go, he left and he came back because the Wyndham ladder truck, which we positioned to cut the whole center of the building out if we had to save the house from the barn, got stuck on the front lawn. Our engine, who was the first engine in, also had overflowed enough water during the fire to make a mud pie under it, and it was stuck. So I think he towed the ladder truck, just started down the driveway, called him back, no, come back and get our truck, so we had to come back and get it. And then shortly thereafter, probably 40 minutes later, I looked down the driveway and there's Nathan rolling fire hose for us, which was a great thing to see, because our guys were really dragging and beat. They were beat bad. And I wanted to make sure that we recognized Nathan White and Public Works too, because some of you guys also got involved in bringing us some water and supplies, but I wanted to make sure we also recognized Nathan White for his efforts at the fire, and we're going to try to get him to join the department tonight because he did a great job rolling hose and loved the hose roller that we've got. It's actually an electric one. He said we should buy 2 of them, even though they're $5,000 each. So we have a certificate, and I'd like to have Nate step forward, and I'd like to present this. And everybody can
Get in
get
there,
it. Oh, I know it. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
But we really do appreciate the help, and that extra effort was way above and beyond. So thank you so
Well,
much.
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nate.
And again, just to make sure we say thank you to everybody who helped, because without all those companies being there, it wouldn't have been a success. It does reach pretty far nowadays when we have a fire to be able to control that and get enough staff on scene to make a difference anyways. So
Thank
the
you.
owners are extremely happy. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So a little bit of an extending story to this too is there is no paving presentation by Nathan. Sue called him. Look, he was just glaring at me a second ago. I know where we're going. So Sue calls him and says, "Hey, we have this on, and this is on video, so you can't say nasty names at me right now."
Yes. I understand.
So she says, I asked Nathan if he looked at the agenda, and he goes, "What do you mean? What do you mean I'm on for
This is
tonight?"
Friday at almost 4 o'clock.
Yeah, and I said, "I don't know. Joe wants, the selectmen, they want to know something about the paving," is what I did. I said, "Just show up and give 2 minutes, whatever." But meanwhile, Sue had called me beforehand and said, "Heads up, Nathan's going to call you. He doesn't want to come to the meeting. So he's going to call Teresa and get out of it." So I said, "Just show up." So I said to him then, I said, "You know what?" I said, "I can have Dawn give a presentation." He goes, "Well, Dawn doesn't know my paving thing." So I said, "Nathan, just go, 2 minutes, right?" And he goes, "All right." So then he says, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to put together a report or something." He says, "Because I know Joe really likes the paving a lot, so I have to have something." So, do you have the report for us tonight?
I got a quick rundown if you want a quick rundown. It's pretty short.
No, you can give it to us next month if you want. We just had to get you here. You know what I mean? So,
Now he's leaving.
oh, that was good. Yeah. All right, get in there.
Oh,
anyways.
here, give a speech.
Well,
Yeah.
I thank you very much, Bruce. I do what I do because of the people of the town of Raymond, and these are a great bunch of people to work with. They really are. Don't do it for this, so
No.
really haven't got much to say other than that.
But thank you. I mean, you had what Bruce, a beam come down through the back window when he was in it.
Yeah, I hit it. Yeah, it was a 2x4 or 2x6. Just hit something just right, and it come through, chased me right into the backhoe. It was kind of scary. It was on fire too.
I
So
haven't
it's,
seen him move that fast ever, though.
there's not a lot of room in the cab of the tractor, but
I guess we'll have to not refurb the backhoe. We were talking about it in the code office. The last time we refurbed it, we had a incident down the Cape Road, and you went down there and fought a
Yep.
fire with it and burned the hydraulics off it.
Yeah.
This thing had just come from Chadwick Bay Ross, had a total refurb paint job. Had
It was the
all
first
tested
trip.
out. How much money?
$9,000 on it. Just
$9,000 paint
Oh.
job, and then the next day we're fighting a fire and
Yeah.
it's on fire. But that's okay. I'm glad you weren't injured.
yeah,
Yes.
all good.
Thank you guys. Seriously,
you.
thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Cool. That was good. He didn't even know.
Suspected something when Bruce got up.
Well, the look you're giving me in your face is getting red behind your mask. I'm like, what? Oh no. All right, we're gonna move on. Okay, so we have a presentation by the RSU 14 Board of Directors and Chris Howe tonight. So I don't know which one of you guys want to.
Actually, Mike's gonna do the presentation part, and
Yeah.
I'm here to answer questions, as are the other board members.
Right, and as I said in the hall, in the parking lot, I'm not sure this is a presentation. It's more of just some information sharing. So I am Mike McClellan, and I live on Pismire Mountain and on Pismire Mountain Road in Raymond. And to my right is Kate Lavalier. And of note, she just became the vice chair. That's the title, right? Vice chair of the RSU board. To my left is Char Jewell. And then, as you already heard, Superintendent for RSU 14, Chris Howell, is all the way on the end. So I want to thank you. This came up fairly recently, and so I thank you guys for giving us an agenda time so quick. So a pretty simple message to deliver is that Chris and some folks were working recently, as you may or may not know, Wyndham is working and has gotten through the process with the state and gotten the funding to build a new middle school for Wyndham. Okay, and so I guess probably within the last month or even sooner than that, there was a meeting going on in Augusta where they were tying up loose ends, and the state asked Chris basically, hey, does the town of Raymond want to jump in and participate in the new building that would be made in Wyndham as a middle school? So the state is simply asking if we want to participate in that. There's a time frame to it, a short time frame. And so I think just a couple of things. It's really clear that tonight we're here to deliver the message that the state asked, and now we're giving it to the community. And I guess we came to you guys to help us kind of come up with a process. The end result, I believe, is that the state would be looking for the RSU 14 school board to have a vote at some point in the near future. I think we're looking to try to get this done by November 1st or thereabouts. So we come to you because obviously we want to talk to the town of Raymond, to survey the parents and all the citizens of town, and try to get a sense of what the community thinks about that. I want to really reiterate, we're just delivering a message, and I want to really reiterate, none of the three of us are coming here with a recommendation either way.
No, right.
Okay. And I think and we can open up for discussion, I think the only thing that's kind of a factoid, and again, take this with a grain of salt, is you guys appointed me about the time this happened. So I got into it about 5 minutes after this all occurred, I think. And the only thing everybody seems to agree on that I've talked with is that if the town of Raymond decides not to participate in this project, they should realize that there would be no thought of accepting a town of Raymond application in probably in our lifetimes for a middle school, okay? And I'm trying not to say that harshly,
No.
as much as just it's a fact that if we choose not to do this, then we choose not to do this. And I don't say that to influence us either way. So, in a sense, I guess, and then we can open up to you guys if you have questions. We're looking for your thoughts and help and support in creating a process where I guess we would do a straw poll or get some sense from the town of Raymond, so that eventually we would go back and vote to represent the town. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if I can just jump in for
Yeah.
a second. So the original application, as all of you know, because I think it was in process when the last cost sharing agreement was negotiated between the two towns. The last application was done 2016, 2017 with the state, and it was done with a Wyndham-only project, and the plan was to keep Jordan Small open. And as all of us went through a withdrawal process through the last couple of years, conversation has always been keep Jordan Small open, keep Wyndham Middle School open, go ahead and do that building. So I just also want to be very, very clear that this isn't coming out of an agenda to close Jordan Small Middle School. It is really the state and their process, because they are funding this building for the new middle school for RSU 14, is can you go back to Raymond one last time and just say, are you interested? Do you want to be part of this? If so, we'll build a larger school for you to accommodate students. If you're not interested, that's great. And the RSU will continue to have two middle schools, but with the understanding from the state construction office that given enrollments and where we are with population, any adjustments, any sort of new construction on Jordan Small would be funded locally and would not be funded by the state in a state-approved project. They're looking right now to knock off schools with enrollment or other issues that are going on. So again, this is an opportunity and this is a choice. And if Raymond citizens say great to be part of it, then we plan moving forward for a larger school. If Raymond citizens say, you know what, we really like the idea of having a small middle school, then great, we'll move forward with that. This is really an opportunity to provide and to receive some input.
No, and thank you guys for that too. And I also know too, I guess I was watching part of your meeting the other night, and you and I have talked too, and I know you and Rolf have talked also too. And so with that, I know you're on a timeline too, and we were trying to get some kind of an answer, hopefully by the end of September. But, so I know you're delivering the message.
Yep.
But
Clearly.
well, right. No, I get that. And I'm not on either side, to be honest. I'm just saying that that message is a huge message
Yeah.
for people, is what it is.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of information that we don't know. So one of the questions would be, and I think you brought this up, and I'm trying to remember if I heard it right. So if we choose not, if Raymond chooses not to go with the middle school, you said something about renovations would still be done at Jordan Small.
Sure, so we have, I think everyone is familiar, and if you're not, you should be familiar. The RSU just did a $700,000 renovation to a Raymond Elementary School for a whole new front
heard about
entrance
that.
and security upgrade, which is still in the midst, and who knew when that was planned that it would take forever to get doors in
Yeah.
to finish that project. But it's a beautiful renovation, and the RSU board's actually going to go tour it tomorrow, but amazing security upgrades to that building. The exact same ones under a revolving renovation bond that was voted on by the citizens of Raymond 2 years ago now is scheduled for Jordan Small for next year. In addition, some classroom upgrades, moving the office to the front. So that is all in process, and that is actually funded. So that, if Raymond says, you know what, we would like to keep Jordan Small the way it is, that process continues to go forward. I think if Raymond says, you know what, we really like the idea of being part of a larger middle school and the opportunity to be in a new school, I think we'd have to take a look at whether or not it'd be worth putting that money into that building.
Yep.
The way that it currently is.
So, with that being said, you also just said too. So, if we don't do it, Raymond would have to pay. It wouldn't be a split cost anymore.
So if it was a renovation of Jordan Small, that's split by the RSU.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's actually a
Like the new footprint.
new wing
Yeah.
of the building, then that's when we would take a look. And
Okay.
I know Randy has some ideas for the building, and to make that building, I don't want to say relevant, but to make sure that it meets educational programming needs for years to come. There are some things we probably want to look at down the road, such as expanding the stage, the cafeteria, moving the music room to a little larger area, because we do have strong music programs at Jordan Small, and the space sometimes doesn't always. So there's some things that we would definitely long-term for that building want to do. But again, if it's we're looking at a new facility, then we would do something different with Jordan Small. So
Okay.
I think the piece for the Wyndham Building Committee, which would then, who knows what the building committee would be called, is that we have been set a targeted referendum date for June of '23.
Okay.
And so if you start to back up from that, looking at design phases, it does put us on a short timeline. But you know what? If it takes a little longer to make this decision, we may have to back up timelines.
All right. Well, I just talked to Sue about possibly how to do a straw poll, not really a straw poll, but an informal one, legally, all day, to try and get people to come in all day. But I'm going to open it to you guys for questions. Go ahead, Don.
Will there be some analysis for the people to be able to judge what it would take to renovate that school? I'm presuming you'd need to do something major to that school to make it, competitive educationally to this new middle school. I'm going to guess this new middle school is going to have, a capital facility. It's going to be something that is going to be far surpassing what you have in Wyndham now. What this is, I mean, this is an old school. So
Yeah,
I'm thinking that you're going to have a state-of-the-art school in all respects. And so, I mean, to make this competitive, I don't see how that could happen.
Yeah, and just a piece, and then we've not had a chance to talk about this, but Wyndham Middle School, when we learned that Wyndham Middle School was actually going to be a project, we met with one of the previous architects that had worked with the district, Lyndon Keck from PDT, and basically said, what are some things we can do up front to save us on the other end? And one was visioning. So Wyndham Middle School staff went through a visioning process. Jordan Small staff went through the same visioning process and basically came with the same outcomes. One being, what would you do for a brand new building? The other, what would you do in a renovation? But you're actually right, Don. It would be some significant costs for some renovations to that building to make sure that you had comparable programming and, for me, comparable opportunities regardless of what middle school you're attending.
And then, of course, you get the issue of the census. I mean, do you have the students here to be able to, to populate a school and provide the curricula there that you would have in the other school? How do you do that?
Yeah.
That's would be my concern. I mean, I'm not going to have any children or certainly any grandchildren. My son is not going to, he's not thinking about Maine. But I'm thinking, and that's probably part of the problem, but I'm thinking, are we going to have, what are the projections, are we going to have students enough to populate that school to be able to have the kind of offerings that are going to be in Wyndham? And so I'm looking at the issue of, having equal opportunity for students here to what they can get at that Wyndham school. And so is there going to be analysis about the capital facility, and then the educational opportunity piece.
Yes.
That would be what if I were a parent, I'd want to look at that. But then the other issue, though, you get back, the other thing that would be occurring to me, being an outlying parent geographically, would be if you were to decide to go to Wyndham, then you'd also want to look at the logistics of how you get the children there quickly enough, because I remember when my son was going to the high school, that long bus ride was a real problem. And so if you have young kids and you have that long bus ride, that's really difficult. So I'd want to see, if you did go to Wyndham, how you would solve that transportation thing. So to me, it would be adding buses or routes or something to get them there more quickly. Those are my just brief thoughts.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things, I mean, looking at the geography of the community, Wyndham and Raymond are really an hourglass, where you have larger Raymond, larger Wyndham, with a strip that runs between them. Ideally, if it was a combined, you'd try to site somewhere in the strip, but that strip, there really isn't any SWAT to. So now it's where are you moving your greatest volume of students. But one of the things that we have talked about in problem solving, and again, this is a new wrinkle for us, is that transportation, and of course now we have the Mill Street changeover of students on buses, and so are you running expresses, and what does that do to bus time versus kids sitting?
One last one, if I can. The other thing is the die has been cast. I mean, the voters have spoken about the combined school, and so, in this one, I don't want to go too far, but I mean, they have spoken about the desire to want to be one unit. I would say that. And so, but that's a challenge though, because as you say, the geography makes that hard.
Yeah.
Joe.
What exactly do you mean by the term participate? You mean financially the town will share in the cost of the Wyndham Middle School? And what is the projected cost right now?
So it is a state-funded project, and at this point, it's a 100% state-funded project, with
Wow.
always going to be some,
He's very skeptical of what I say.
Yeah.
always going to be some local additional that happens with any project. Wyndham High School is a great example. There's $7 million of local additional, and that's handled within the cost sharing formula. Raymond pays a portion of that local additional based on number of students.
Where are we in a new funding formula right now?
Say that again?
Where are we on a new funding formula right now?
New funding formula per se for the state of Maine?
Between Raymond and Wyndham, cost share.
Same.
So we're the same.
I think you guys voted to redo
Just
it
voted
the
just to
same.
keep going with the same cost sharing
Okay, so
formula.
Raymond's still picking up 36% of the
Yep.
cost. All right.
Could I jump back just in people are watching on TV? So as an example of right now, if it's all funded and we decided to say the gym or the auditorium or some piece of it, we wanted a bigger, what the state does is the state has the formulas and
Like
they
the
look at
EPS.
populations and they basically allot you sizes and shapes. And if we wanted to expand something like an auditorium, but that's again something we would all talk about.
The gym at Jordan Small was an extra,
Yeah. So that's when you maybe start paying some money, but that's something you make a choice about.
or the Performing Arts Center
Yeah,
at
I mean,
West.
the back of
Wyndham
Wyndham
was an
High School's
extra.
auditorium.
Right.
The original state plan was just the front half, those back bleacher seats, that was paid for out of local additional, as with additional cafeteria. Joe, where I've actually had some questions to the state about is, with Wyndham now receiving subsidy, that's why the program is 100% state funded, and with Raymond being, still a minimal receiver, what does that look like within state costs? So I have a meeting tomorrow with the state, that's information that we can supply. But as far as cost for a new building, it will be significantly discounted by state dollars that will be coming. And basically the state has said they want to come here, they want to work with us, but they don't want to talk again for another 20 years.
What is the current student population at Jordan Small?
Jordan
it is
Small right
going
now
up.
is 192, 93, somewhere in there.
I know RES is going up, because you're talking about, but, so Chris, I saw something on TV the other night. What is the subsidy for Raymond? Because it was very small numbers compared to your guys' as well. It was like $4 or some odd,
5 is the minimum.
the subsidy.
5%.
No, we're talking
I would
numbers.
need to get that back to you off the top of my head. I just,
It was, you guys had, I think, like 2 million, something like that, and I think we were down to like a single digit is what it was, that we get back from the state. It's very small compared to,
right, and Raymond's a minimum receiver.
Yeah.
no question about it. Wyndham's subsidy overall is about $16 million
Yep.
total, but really the subsidy comes through special education costs and other things, but it's very,
I
very
was
small.
surprised that
It's
yeah.
all, and it's all based on the state formula and
Yep.
fiscal capacity and what the state views that you can afford. But Joe, going back to your original question, Wyndham's met that fiscal capacity, and that's why the project's being paid for. If I had to guess cost, we're probably looking at between a $60 and a $75 million facility by the time all is said and done. I can't tell you where the site is because part of the process is going through site selection. When the state opens their checkbook and works with you, they have quite a bit of say on things that they want you to consider for sites.
Well, you also said too, they make you whole, so if they took a field from Wyndham, they will replace and find a place for the field,
Correct.
which is cool, yeah, so.
Do you think if Raymond did decide to come in, that would have some influence on the site? Would that
Because
have
it's
some?
gonna make it bigger.
I think what one of the limiting factors is that according to the state formula, we need about 35 acres.
It's a little-
And so where is there 35 acres that's available that is somewhere, first of all, in the hourglass?
Right, I get that, I get
Oh,
that.
that's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
So it's probably, there is some space available in Wyndham, and there's also some space available on campus with possible relocation to other locations for athletic fields that are being. And I think part of it also, and this obviously will come up in informational sessions, are depending upon percentage of students, you know, what percentages are you moving across different locations?
That sounds like a no, there's no land closer to Raymond.
Not that I'm aware of. There's 25 acres behind Home Depot, and I think right now that's slated for several hundred housing units.
Wow,
Okay.
wow.
I mean, years ago, when there was talk of the middle school, a new middle school, it was proposed somewhere near the Raymond-Wyndham line, you know, so it'd be kind of in the middle. That was 15 years ago?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there. But that was the talk, but now a lot of that land has been developed. It's probably not available anymore.
Is that behind like Genest, and there's
Right.
I think there's a large grove that's down there as well.
Yep.
Ice cream dugout is at the top
Yep.
of that road.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, what we're trying to get here, you know, the goal here tonight is put together a game plan that says,
Process,
okay,
yeah.
obviously, what, you know, would need to get scheduled is a public meeting, because, you know, the straw poll either could be, you know, can be done as an adjunct to that or whatever, but, you know, from a timing standpoint, obviously, facility, we know where we can have it. Shouldn't be a problem getting a reservation in. But it's really a function of when would you want to do that, and what information would you be able to have at that meeting, because that's, you know, that's when you're going to get the parents and all that are going to come into that. So, you know, something like that, we would want to be able to advertise in a number of different forms and things like that. But what they're going to want to know is, okay, what's going to be presented at that, what opportunities are going to have for interaction and things like that. So I think that's kind of what needs to get nailed down quickly, looking at your timeline, because something wants to be done fairly soon in order to not disadvantage the timeline that you've got.
Because I know you and I talked about possibly having the vote before the end of September.
Yeah.
Because you guys are talking
We can
maybe
push
4 or
that
5
back.
weeks.
Yeah.
You know, but to have a presentation for everybody to come and get out as much information so people have the idea. But you guys still don't have a lot of information, right?
Well, we have, if it was going forward as a Wyndham Middle School project, we have some site ideas.
Okay.
We have all the engineering studies to show that it is advantageous to actually close the current Wyndham Middle School and not keep it open, to build a new building. Again, we have some site selection pieces, and Wyndham Middle School staff have done quite a bit of the visioning, which then lends itself into what's called the ed specs for the building, which then go to the architects. We have an architect selected, and we're ready to start looking into some concept pieces.
And the state throws this at you. Boom.
Okay, but that's okay. That's okay because I
Yeah.
think it's a great question to ask. And again, if it's the direction people want to go in, then we'll change that direction. The building can be scaled up if necessary.
If you scale the building up, do you need to, if you scale the building up, do you need to scale up also the footprint? In other words, you're looking at 35 acres. If they, if the town were to, if the town people were to say, yes, we want to get on board with that, is it now 40 acres you need, or is it still 35?
No, it's still within the 35 because of the size of the building. The other thing is that we're looking at in this project for greatest energy efficiency is going up. So most likely it'd be a 4-story building, which then lessens the footprint of that building.
I don't know if it has to be in Wyndham, but I want to point out the town of Raymond has a piece of property on the top of Patricia Avenue that abuts Wyndham. A large piece of property.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how large it is, Alex? Yeah, it's a significant piece of property. And Wyndham, I believe, has property up there as well.
Yeah,
You know,
so
Ron
part of
has
that is
property.
Wyndham up there, yeah.
Just saying.
Where's Patricia?
Behind Twirling Glass.
On Pipeline
Oh,
Road?
Yep.
So there's property
I used to
there,
live
and it's high property, and it's beautiful property.
Oh my God, that road's.
Just saying.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good, and there is Wyndham up there, right?
Pardon me?
There is Wyndham neighborhoods up there.
Wyndham, major Wyndham growth area.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yep.
And actually, I think Pete Heinzer lives right back around.
And they're talking about, the other thing they're talking about doing, I think Barry contacted me recently. This is something that Tony and I talked about for years. I've talked with Tom Bartel about it. They for years have talked about a Wyndham bypass and coming down to Route 85 through there. So just saying that that's another thing. So there may be a connector. They dream of a connector road. And I mean, I think it's a great idea too. And I've been talking for 20 years with various Wyndham officials about that. But the idea of I won't call it a bypass, but a
Secret bypass.
but
Yeah,
a
right.
I
Wyndham
know.
The spur.
Because I know
connector. I think they call it
Yeah.
connector.
And there's a connector that's in process or planning for, I think it's running Home Depot to 115.
Yeah, so the Wyndham, I think they call it the Wyndham connector, and so
Yep.
Yeah.
so it's just saying it could be on a major connector route at some point, and that we have a piece of land there, and I think Wyndham may as well. Just something to look at.
All right, so I think
Okay.
what we need to do then is plan out, like,
Yeah.
is 3 weeks out too short, too long? So I'm thinking if we did like a 3-week and then plan a,
I don't think it's gonna be hard for us to prepare. I mean, the facts are what we know is the facts.
right,
So I think we're pretty ready to go.
I think the answer is gonna be what are you gonna do during small school?
the questions. you
That's
need.
gonna be the
Oh.
question from parents in Raymond. Because there's many parents who, during the whole withdrawal process, said, oh, they're never gonna close during small school.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Nice.
but some of us said it may happen.
So,
So
you know,
we're, today's,
to me, I mean, if I were a parent, I'd want to see some sort of equivalency, and I just don't know how you do that.
Right.
This
At
is
least not in the short term.
You know, I don't know, it's a pretty major opportunity.
Chris,
I think, but I think the other thing you have to do, you always get those questions there that no one thought you were gonna get.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, in your timeline, you've almost got to build in time to say, okay, there's questions that are gonna come up in there that we can't answer, so we need time to be able to react to those, get those answers out there before you do the final straw.
And I agree, and I think what I envision the evening to be like is a more polished presentation, and then a chance to kind of walk through a little bit of history, give people as much information, then plenty of opportunity to ask questions in the forum, and for them to have an understanding. And then I think, Teresa, what you and I talked about is trying to do a follow-up as
Yep.
well. And Rolf, that'd be a great time to then go back to some of those questions. I think what the RSU 14 board is looking for is some sort of decision by, whether it be done by straw poll or by vote or by something else, and that they would then vote to accept that decision and let the citizens of Raymond decide, do they want to be part or not be part.
how late did the board say? Because I know there is a timeline at some point, 'cause I know you guys got last minute.
If we could shoot for the 1st of November.
Okay. So we've got, yeah.
And did I hear you
this is
talked
busy.
about earlier about doing a vote, actually having an election day
Well,
would be?
I told her, I told her too, I said, is there a way we can do this legally to have a straw poll? And she says, can we do it before November 2nd? And I said, we're gonna need to do it before November 2nd because we're gonna
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah.
So, Sue, you just wanted to say something too.
Yeah, it's that, it's a choice between doing a straw poll, which I think has some possible ramifications of people saying, I didn't know, et cetera. And perceptions being negative that way possibly, or having a vote.
Well-
At this point, if you were to go for a vote, I would need to come in tomorrow and get a ballot going. Otherwise, we'd be doing a hand count after election, which is
Right.
still possible. But even with a hand count, we'd need to know sooner than later and get the publicity out there.
Yeah.
Because it's already 45 days, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm thinking in my head going, if we do it all day, it just gives people all day to say, okay, you can go, it gets more people out, it gets word out to people more instead of, you know, like the hour, 2 hours in the afternoon. Coming to a meeting, I think we're only gonna maybe get like, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 people at the most on that.
Yeah.
So, all right, so today's the 14th.
Can I ask a procedural question? Is it, do you have to have a vote by the citizens, or is it a Board of Selectmen purview?
I'd have to look at the education law to find out if it's required to have a vote at the
Right.
time or not. That I don't know. So,
I don't know.
I'm not sure. If
Well,
it
the
is,
state, and the
then-
state's looking for us to vote eventually, the school board
Right.
will eventually be the vote.
So you're saying have the select board say yes or no?
Yeah.
Take the vote out.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Have a public hearing, have people come out to a public hearing, voice their opinion, and then a couple of weeks later, have the selectmen meet and take a vote.
You know, I wondered about that, and I wondered, I think Kate and I were talking about also maybe opening up an email, some other, if people can't be at that meeting, which always happens, that there'd be other ways they could give feedback, whatever, you know, if it's emailing Don's
Could always
office or
start.
something.
Oh, yeah, that would be good. I like
We'll
that.
put your email in.
Yeah.
I like that a
Survey.
lot.
You know, I have to
I
say,
mean, big
I've never
picture
thought of
Don's
it that
office.
way. Because I guess what I'm looking at is when people voted to stay with the RSU, which is fine, they also made a statement. So to stay with it would be to
Yeah.
do the Wyndham Middle School, and then see what happens with Jordan Small School after that.
I mean,
I
the
never
Board of
looked at it that way.
Selectmen set the mill rate and the spending, and,
But that's such
Yeah.
a big decision. But on the other hand,
oh my
it's-
God, we don't want to make a big decision.
So
Hey,
that
can I-
sounds like some
You
more
don't like
research.
Joe.
Yeah, Chris and I were talking earlier, and Joe, you mentioned the building. And the policy of the RSU is if we stop using that building, then it reverts back to Raymond. Is that's pretty clear.
That was part of the original consolidation.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, so that, then you can have your discussions about, you know, moving town office or whatever you want to talk about, but.
Wow, Joe, you just threw
But
in
I-
a whole
my-
different thing, which makes sense though.
But I mean, you know, if you,
That makes sense.
if you
No.
take it,
It's
if you
amazing.
take it back to one level, I mean, you know, what's happening here is, you know, that you're trying to get the input, which is a great, because in point of fact, because the vote was made that, you know, it's the RSU. The RSU board actually has the authority to make the decision anyway.
Yeah,
And what's being done now is saying, you know, we want to take that back and say, yeah, we want, you know, we want your input. So the question is, how do we get that input? And that's where we're getting back to is, okay, how do we get that input? You know, at the end of the day, whether it's a straw poll or whatever, you're gonna get the feelings from those meetings anyway.
Yes.
So it's gonna be driven from that, and then it's a function of, you know, what official thing do you want that comes to you that says, here's what the feelings of the town people are, and we're either in or out.
So, can I ask, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but, so say we do it, say Raymond says yes. What if the school board votes no? They can do that.
or vice versa, right?
Right.
We could say no, and we could vote yes.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, yeah. But
Oh
I
my God, this is
tell you, the
crazy.
little bit
This
we've
is-
talked, all three of us agreed, we're not playing our cards at all.
No.
We were coming here to deliver a message.
No, and I'm not
Yeah.
playing, I'm just trying to get,
I
I'm
think
literally like on this fence.
If I can speak for this,
Yeah.
and actually after living through withdrawal with all of you as well, I think the board recognizes that it wants to respect the wishes of the people of Raymond with this, and if the general consensus that comes out of this is, you know what, let's be part of a new Wyndham Middle School, then they'll accept that. If the general consensus is, you know what, we're happy the way it is, then we'll continue to work on programming and things that we need to do in order to make that happen. So,
Okay, yeah.
The only way to get a general consensus, to me, that terminology kind of bothers me. The only way you get a general consensus is to have it a vote, democratic, outcome, a vote. That's a general consensus in my mind. I think, if I can speak, can I speak?
Yeah.
I try never to do this, but I think what should govern this is if there's some way to determine. That's why I look at this from a kind of a scientific method or a objective method. What is best from an educational standpoint? The data. Let's look at the data, and can we do this up here? Equivalency, the data. And so I don't know how can you do that? How can you do that fast? How can you develop all of that information that you would need to judge? What is it going to take to make this equivalent to that, if that's even possible, and then on a sustainable basis moving forward? If I were going to be, moving here with young children and or people in the future, I think that, I'd want to be certain that that facility in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, a lifetime, is going to be something that I'd want my children to go to. You know what I mean? That's a huge decision.
but I think also the board recognizes that.
I get it.
When you look at data, that data's not in a vacuum. That data is within a history.
Right,
of the
right.
RSU.
Right, but a lifetime is a long time, and so I think this is a monumental decision to have to be making really, really fast. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we're back to, what if we plan, say, 2 weeks from now to have like a public forum, public hearing?
I was gonna say, like October 5th or 6th, you hold a public hearing in Raymond, and the selectmen meeting is on the 12th, and we take a vote at that time.
I agree.
Is that enough time though to do the 2 meetings like Ralph had suggested?
Yeah.
To get back with
Well,
people with answers?
Right, that's what I'm thinking, to have 2, like,
Why would you need 2 meetings?
well, because they may not have questions, or maybe some people that miss the meetings, you know what I mean, that might want to come out once they hear more information. So, I mean, and I hate, I hate bringing up the withdrawal, but we put the withdrawal meetings out there just so people could make different meetings, and that's what I'm referring to here. So if we have the 28th for one meeting, and then we can also have the 5th for another meeting for any kind of questions or that type of thing, just informational wise.
I don't think we have any issue, I assume.
No, and I would
Covering
agree
that.
with that, just people are busier
Exactly.
now.
You know, with soccer and
Soccer
kids,
and
yeah,
with-
right.
yeah.
I'm just thinking, so it's 2 different meetings that.
And if we're acknowledging
different
that it's
people
gonna be
can-
hard to get people, anyway,
Yeah.
options are good.
Are you guys free the 28th and the 5th?
No, on
What aren't you available on?
the 28th. I gotta go deal with my mother.
But you can do the 5th, right?
I
So you
can
can
do
just
the
make
5th.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. Rolf, what about you?
I can do either or both.
Okay, so Joe, no.
If it was, one thing I would consider is not doing them on the same night.
Okay, no, okay.
Yeah, that makes
Two
sense. That
different
makes sense.
nights.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so
Because some people may work every Tuesday night, you know,
Good
so.
point.
all right, so 10/5, we can do that one. Then what about that week of the 28th?
We'll do the
It's a
6th.
short week, just because it becomes October. So Monday's the 27th, Wednesday's the 29th, Thursday's the 30th.
So you got the, yeah, so the 28th is a Tuesday night. If you
Yeah.
went October 6th, which is a Wednesday night.
That's a,
Sure.
That's a school
board
board
meeting.
Oh, that's a
for
board
us.
meeting, yeah.
What about the 7th then, like a Thursday? So it'd be 10/5 and 10/7 that
Madam
week?
Chair, the zoning
Not
board of
10/5 and
appeals meets
10/7.
on
You're
the
still looking
28th.
at the 28th.
What about the
Okay.
4th?
Well,
Monday the 4th?
So like October 4th and October 5th?
Yep.
2 days in a row?
Could, I mean. I'm just
I
trying
can
to
be
give
there.
that second night for parents if they can't make it. Chris, what about you?
I can do both the 4th and the 5th.
I can be
Okay.
there both days.
6th is a board meeting, 7th is a construction meeting.
What are you trying to do to his evening?
I know, exactly.
I'm on all those meetings too.
Oh, you too then.
Wow. All right. Do you guys want to do that? The 4th and the 5th?
4th and 5th is good with me. Works for me.
Give one night. We can't do it. You're not going to have all the information on the 5th for the second night, but you know what? I think as you go through this process, you're not going to have. Yeah.
He can do it.
6:30, 7.
6:30.
Where? Here?
Jordan Small Gym?
Yeah.
Jordan Small.
I'm assuming that's open. We're gonna.
May I just ask how the word will
Yes,
get
I'll
out?
take
That's what I was just
Okay,
going to
thank
do. No, I
you.
was just
We're
going to do that
reading each
next.
other's minds.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we have the Roadrunner, which comes out, I think, at the end of the month, right? Right, Sue?
Yeah, yeah.
For-
I believe it comes out this week, Friday.
Yeah, we can put it out through our, channels, including the
On
Roadrunner. We'll
Thursday?
have to get right on
Yeah, I
that.
think, she has to put that in.
We can put it on
Today, I
the
think.
list.
And
You
we'll,
can
so
put that on
we'll,
listserv, right?
No,
yeah,
today's
so
Tuesday. She has to
between the
put it in by
town and the
Wednesday.
school, we should have
She's already done.
sufficient means to get this publicized,
Yeah,
and the electronic signage boards,
yeah.
so we'll get right on that, right? Well,
Well,
Sue's on vacation, so I
you get
guess,
I'll let Kayla know on the way home.
right, we'll let Kayla know. Yeah.
Is there a way, and I don't know if it's all right to do it, is there a way that we can send it through like the students with the parents?
Yep, we can put on the cert and
Okay.
Blackboard. Which
Okay.
is how we communicate now.
Just so everybody's getting accurate information,
Mhm.
is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Gosh, we can hit,
We're talking 6:30, you said, right?
yeah. I'm just trying
Dawn,
to,
I'm gonna come in the morning for a couple of hours,
Okay,
so.
so maybe the other thing we could do, because it's so important, I mean, I don't know if you wanna do this, Chris, I guess it'd probably be better for you than me, but we could also probably contact the Eagle, and I bet they'd do a story about it.
Lorraine.
Lorraine,
Yeah,
there you go,
okay,
Lorraine.
yeah,
She's-
we're
by the way,
close now, so-
Lorraine Blozak will do a story.
Yep.
on that.
she
She
is
works
a
for
great
school
hire
now.
for you.
Huh?
She works
I
for
do
the
that
school now.
position,
She's
I
a
think.
communicator between the
Yeah.
schools. Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah, Lorraine.
Yep.
Lorraine can get that done,
So we can put it on the face there. You can put it. All right. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
We snatched her.
All right,
Thank you guys.
You know what? I'm wondering too if we can tap into the library email
Yeah,
too
I'm
and
sure
see
we
what
can.
we can do to get
Do
things
that.
out that way.
yep.
All right. We'll try every avenue we can to get it. So 10-4 and 10-5.
So can I ask, because we have our meeting tomorrow night, so the process sounds like we're gonna have 2 meetings to the public, and then you guys are gonna vote. We may take a straw poll or ask people to raise hands or something, but ultimately, you guys are gonna vote and then hand that to us, and then we'll do what we do.
Well, I think too is I'm going to give people a chance to say, are you for it, against it, and why, just to kind of see what
Sure.
their pros and cons are of it, and that kind of tells us, yeah.
All right.
Madam Chair, should I make sure there isn't any statutory requirement, or I don't think there is for a vote, but just to be sure, or do you think we're all set?
You can walk, but I don't think there's any requirement at all.
Okay.
I think that's our understanding, right? is-
Right, and the
School committee will
statutory
vote.
would fall under the RSU board.
Okay.
Wouldn't be us, I don't think.
Well, good.
All right. Good work, guys.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you
Thank
guys,
you.
seriously,
Thank
for
you.
coming up and talking. And we'll see you guys on the 4th and the 5th.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Kate, come early to those meetings, you'll get a good chair.
I know.
Yeah.
I gotta remember that for tomorrow
That's the
night.
one that's broken.
No, Shar.
Oh, is it here? Is it here, Nora Nate?
Yeah.
Put your name on the back so we can.
Thank you.
right,
Everyone
bye,
have a
guys.
good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
All right.
Can't see me laughing in the
I know, that's just it. All right, next, consideration of finance director appointment.
All right, we have a new finance director, Charisse Keach. And so she started on September 9th. I think you all met her before the meeting, so why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes,
to the public and-
thank you for having me.
All right.
My name is Charisse Keach. I'm a resident of Sebago, so I am an outsider. As Dawn had mentioned, I started on Thursday and had a full day of basically a meet and greet of a lot of people. And Friday was working with someone that we had contracted, some assistance in getting our books in order. So like I said, live in Sebago. I've been there since the fall of 2015. Prior to coming to Raymond, I was the finance officer for the town of Bridgeton for almost 6 years. And prior to Bridgeton, I was the town treasurer for the town of Buxton for 4 years. And prior to that, I worked for the county of Franklin County up in Farmington, Maine, which is my hometown, for 3 years. So I've been in Southern Maine since 2011, and I like being here. And Rolf was on the interview committee, and thank you for choosing me as your candidate, finalist. And I'm looking forward to digging in and making some recommendations and suggestions and working. I've already been working very closely with a lot of the departments, and everybody's been really quite helpful and makes the day enjoyable.
Good, good.
So I don't know if any of you have questions for me.
I just told her communication is good.
Well, we're very
She'll get a
happy-
lot of that.
We're very happy to have you, and
Yeah.
so we're actually excited to have you here and thankful. And so we're going to keep you very busy, I'm sure.
Yes, you are.
And we'll save all of our questions we have for when we need answers for something
So
different.
we're looking for selectmen
Yes.
confirmation.
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Sharice.
I second that.
All in favor? All right.
Awesome.
Thank you. So may I take an opportunity, I really didn't want to jump in with the
I was gonna have
RSU
you do
14 Board of Selectmen, not Board of Selectmen, Board of Directors here and the Superintendent, but I did want to just offer some comments in regards to this. Public hearing process and whatnot. I didn't know if they've developed any FAQs or, you know, as it would pertain to Raymond citizens. I think that would be helpful, as well as, you know, some informational pieces. You know, what's it going to cost, that sort of thing.
On like the website, or
Anything to get out to the public so they, you know, can take an opportunity to review it. I mean,
oh, you mean this? What we just? Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, that's what we're still processing. Yeah. Nope.
I mean, Chris must have colleagues in the superintendent world, so to speak, that have gone through this type of process before and should be able to, you know, get some insight perhaps from them when they do this sort of thing. But I think that would be helpful for the public to have an FAQ, you know, some type of informational piece
Right.
available.
Or
to
somewhere where people can actually post things so they can't make it so we can read it. Yeah.
them. Yeah, just as a suggestion.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to do your thing while you're up there too? The tax?
Do I have a thing?
A thing?
Yeah, that's.
Or do you want to wait
That's
for it?
correct.
That's all part of, that's part of.
Okay. All right, no, go sit down. Sorry.
Setting the mill rate.
Here.
That's part of the mill rate thing. That's part of the mill rate discussion.
I figured since she was already doing it.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Consideration of road name change from Nancy's Way to Treehouse Way.
Good evening, everyone. I am Nicole Keogh, and I currently live off of Sloan's Cove Road on Nancy's Way, and I would like to propose to change the name of my road to Treehouse Way. My husband and I live in a log home on Nancy's Way currently. It is the only home. It's actually our driveway. It's about 764 feet long, and it does run through a right-of-way. About 175 feet of that is owned by Matt and Brooke Elder. And I have gotten an email from them asking if we can change the name, even though their driveway is directly off of Sloan's Cove, and they would never put a driveway or any way onto their property through Nancy's Way. So they gave their approval to do so. And I've also covered this with Kayla Gonzalez, the E911.
That's what I was just going to ask. Okay. Yep.
Yes. She ran it through some algorithms with the Treehouse Way name, and it's not at all close. I believe the closest, in fact, was White House Farm Road.
Okay. White House Farm. That's what we were talking about earlier with the fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. exactly.
All right.
Do you have any questions for me?
Nope, Kayla's already went ahead and confirmed it. So we just need a motion.
Move to rename Nancy's Way to Treehouse Way.
Just a question, was the road named after you?
No, it wasn't, and that's also another reason we moved there in 2018.
Huh.
Nancy was, she owned the land before a builder came in and decided that he was going to subdivide a larger portion of Nancy's property. And he ended up only building the one home, and that was it. There is some, cons to having the Nancy's Way. It's not recognized by the USPS with the apostrophe S, for possession. So it was a bit complicated at first, and I had to make sure that all friends and family and credit cards and utilities knew that it is Nancy's Way minus the apostrophe.
I'll second the motion.
After that expression, yeah.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Excellent.
All right, good.
All right, well, thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you. All right. Kurt LaBelle, consideration of setting mill rate for FY 21-22.
Evening, everybody. In your packets, you should see a sheet with some rate options for this year. As the last couple of years, the voters at town meeting have authorized the selectmen to utilize up to $300,000 in fund balance to reduce the mill rate above and beyond the other revenue, which is classified in the town meeting warrant. So it's kind of a dual calculation. The selectmen will kind of decide how much fund balance, if any, they want to use, while keeping another eye on the overlay that results from the tax rate selected. So I've come up with 3 options. You can pick one of those, or you can pick one of your own. I'll help you if you decide you want to use a different number for fund balance, or perhaps a different rate. I can give you some on-the-fly calculations as to what that would do to the overlay. And if you have any general questions about taxation, feel free to ask those as well. I'll help you with that.
So, Kurt, after talking to Charisse, just for a few minutes, she was saying too that it's better to have more of an overlay.
Not so much.
Yeah, sorry.
Fund balance she's talking about, not overlay.
Yes, not so much the overlay piece of it. That's
Oh, this is
generally
yours,
used
yeah.
for your abatements. And I had a discussion with Kurt, not knowing the history of abatements approved here. The unassigned fund balance.
Okay. Nope, I mix up then. All right.
But doesn't the Government Accounting Standards Board say 15 to 18%? That was the last time I read it.
I don't know which standard board you're referring to. If
There's
it's-
a Government Accounting Standards Board
Right, and there's a
that
number.
talks about, there's a number in there, and it's about 15 to 18%.
Don't know how long ago that was
It's
established.
still a standard. You may want to look it up.
But I mean,
That's I think that falls in line with your existing policy
Right.
of 15%.
Correct.
We did try to do some quick investigation to see where the town was at currently. With the turnover that we've had, the only number we could really hang our hat on was the audited figures from FY20, and I think you would come out around $1.8 million for undesignated fund balance from that point. The 15% of the last commitment is going to be a target value of somewhere between 2.1 and $2.2 million. So I don't know if we've made gains or lost since FY20. So
I'm trying to figure out why it went down so low. I wasn't on the board, But from what I remember previously, when I was on the board, it was always around the 2.2 number.
That was your general
Yeah.
revolving number?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say, if my recollection is, you know, the town has utilized fund balance the last several years for tax reduction.
Well, because there was a lot of it there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
But I mean, you know, if we look at a couple of the key markers, one is our property tax payment is, you know, up at the 95 to 98% rate as far as on-time payments or, you know, collection.
Yeah.
It was kind of surprising, but our excise, our vehicle tax and registrations and whatnot all came in at or above projections. So, from a historical standpoint, the town has never had to go out on a tan. So, you know, the 15%, you know, getting to that figure seems to be a reasonable number based on our historical. You know, I think we'll have to look at it a little bit when we go through reval and see where things shake out there, because that's when we may end up with some tax issues. We also may end up with some abatement issues, but the abatement issues are more going to be taken care of in the overlay than in the undesignated areas. But I think we did spend down some on the undesignated on some capital things and things like that.
But I think we're getting to the point now where we want to be a little bit more, you know,
Well, I suspect
careful
over
with
the
fund
next year, Charissa will have a pretty good idea. It's, you know, when she gets more comfortable where we are at, whereas, you know, we're kind of a little bit in the dark at the moment.
Where were we? How much did we use of the overlay for abatements?
We only issued the last few years, few $1,000s
Right.
here or there.
Yeah.
I will say the only thing that's really on my radar is a couple of, you know, I have a couple of commercial properties that may or may not be on my radar, but, you know, we have to just take it as it comes.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Bruno, if I may
Yep.
address your concern of a GASB,
Yep.
usually they have a number assigned to them in talking about the UFB. My experience in dealing with auditing firms is that they recommend having 3 to 4 months in the unassigned fund balance to pay payroll, the school appropriation. You know, we don't have tax payments coming in probably till mid-October perhaps, if bills go out, you know, soon. So that's why I would suggest perhaps revisiting that policy and increasing that. And you're also looking at that target balance being based on the prior year commitment, which I don't know as I would even put that in there, because it's a little obscure, because, you know, budgets do go up, the municipal budgets have to go up, the school appropriation's gonna go up, county. So it's a little obscured, in my opinion, but that's just my suggestion.
Well, I can tell you from my experience, accountants always want you to have too much money set aside, and Raymond taxpayers want you to have as minimal amount of money set aside as you can, because we don't want to just hoard money from the taxpayers.
Right, no, I
So
understand.
you got to find the balance in the middle somewhere. And if the standard is 15, I don't know why we would go to 25. That's just me. I happen to be fairly conservative financially.
Understand.
Oh, 25? I don't see how you could ever get to 25%.
Unless you raise the taxes.
Oh, yeah, because we're, you know, we
Right.
the only concern that we have is that we might be more like at 10% right now instead of, we may not be making our 15.
Well-
So we have to be watchful, I think, over the next year, coming into next year's tax cycle. We'll have a good
I mean,
idea where our fund
Teresa's
balance
stepping
is.
in
Yeah.
while we're trying to set the mill rate, and
Yes.
she's just,
Yep.
you've been there how long? 4 days now? And you
Today's
don't
day
have-
3.
Okay, and you don't know any of this stuff yet? What is taking you so long? All right?
Yeah, other
So-
than I did review your policy, and
Right.
I did, you know, look up what the unassigned fund balance
Right.
was as of the last audit, because that's what the policy is based on.
By
And
the way,
just-
I was kidding, just so you know.
No, it's fine.
You know,
You gotta give it back to Joe.
She asked me if she could share her concern, I told her she could.
I told her she
and
could
so-
too.
So that's fine, and, but I also pointed out that, you know, we do have a, you know, AAA bond rating, so, you know, we're doing something right, and, so take it under advisement, I think we can move on and set a mill rate, maybe?
Over to you.
He
We're
just
not-
gets
We're not looking at
angry
making changes
straight.
tonight, I think she was just wanting to share her
No, yeah.
opinion to this, I guess.
All right, what are you guys thinking?
What's the tax impact on, if we go to 1410, what's the tax impact on a $300,000 house? I'm assuming it's 15 cents a thousand, is that right?
Yep.
So you're talking $15, 100,000? Is that my math correct?
Yep, sounds right. Plus a little bit more for the homestead cut,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, you're somewhere in that neighborhood.
So it'll be $45, and that includes the school. And
Yeah.
from what I'm seeing on the school, it's flat. All right.
went
School
up.
was up a little bit.
It went up a little. What happened, the county went down, the state,
Right.
the school went up.
Okay.
Yeah, school was up a little, the municipal was up. We do have a pretty good increase in rev sharing coming our way, so that's
Right.
gonna help offset, some of the municipal increase.
Which will
Valuation
probably not be
increase.
there next year. Well, who knows, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would expect next year the county's gonna go up. The only reason the county didn't, the only reason the
We
county
got
went
all that
down
federal money.
is because, just because other towns grew faster than we did. But with some of the growth that we've got, it's gonna catch up to us. I
Right.
think you're gonna see the county jump back up next year.
Yeah, just from an apportionment standpoint,
Yeah.
regardless of what happens
Yeah.
with their budget.
Yeah, because the county budget did not go down, it's just our share went down because our property values didn't increase as much as some of the other towns, but that's gonna level itself, and we should see that jump back up next year.
Yeah, because you have a lag period, you know, and the effects of Corona, you know, we're gonna start to see those in our subsidy, you know, in our apportionments and in our ratios here next year.
I'll make a motion to set the mill rate at 1410.
I will second that.
Are you comfortable with that, Kurt?
Yep, I mean, that's, if
We
you,
always,
as long
we
as
always
you guys
stress,
are.
we always stress you out, so.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
that's a tough question for him.
I know.
Because if he had his way, he'd probably want to be, let's be on the safe side and go 1440. But-
You know what, the real issue is if the board is comfortable applying that amount of fund balance, there's no reason not to go 1410.
The way I look at it is I'll take my chances.
Rolf, any input?
No, I mean, between the 1410 and 1420, I mean, the only difference is how much we're using of the fund balance. And I'm just trying to think, we did, we had that blip at the end of the last year on repowering the boats, but we took, because we hadn't used our
Contingency.
contingency, we were all right. That would be the only thing is whether,
That was getting used to a lot.
but we still have that contingency that we kind of hold for those, so it wouldn't, I don't feel bad about using the 1410 because I think that we got to see what's going to come up next year on county and things like that.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor? All right, 1410.
I'll be probably coming back to see you guys early winter to talk, give you some reval timeline, give you some data as to where we're at, some timelines, and we can make some decisions at that point, the board can, about, going forward or not going forward, depending on what, where we're at that time. But we're kind of on the horizon of it, so I'll see you in a few months.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thanks, Kurt.
All right, Alex, you're up for the next three. Shakerwood's progress update, please.
Good evening, Alex, code officer for the town. So Kathy and I went out to Shaker Woods 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, and met with Jared. It had been a little while since we had gone out, so we wanted to go get a good look at the property. Our goal was to spend more time on the outside. We've done a lot of inspections of the interior of the house, so this time we really wanted to see where he was at since we're quickly approaching the October 1st deadline that you guys had set in the order. So we met with Jared. We did end up going inside as well, but from what we saw on the outside, it's clear that he got the message. He's cleaned up essentially the areas that we prioritized, so that's immediately around the house. You know, the items that we had really said, you know, you need to make sure that this stuff is moved away from the house, propane tanks, you know, stuff like that, that the fire department had, you know, serious concerns about. All of that stuff's been moved, and he's really, you know, gotten quite a bit of work done. There's no way, not even a 1% chance that he'll have the outside cleaned up by October 1st. It just will never happen. So at this point, and Kathy can speak for herself if she'd like, but we've talked quite a bit about this, and we both think that he's definitely shown us that he's taking this seriously. He's continued to make his payments for the back taxes. I believe he's actually set it up now to automatically withdraw from his bank, I believe. So he's definitely taking this seriously. At this point, it doesn't look like a lot more will be out before snow flies. I mean, we've got a little bit longer, but you know, this definitely won't be cleaned up before winter. So I think at this point, we're comfortable continuing to check in with him monthly or every other month to kind of watch the progress and, you know, allow him to continue to clean this up through the winter, and possibly reassess with you guys in the spring to see what we think, you know, the priority should be for, you know, the spring and summer season for him to continue picking up. But ultimately, that decision is up to you guys. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
How's his road look going in?
I mean, you can get in there. There are some pretty good size ponds. It was pretty wet. I mean, it's a wet lot. So the way the road is you know, the topography of the road, there's gigantic holes. You know, it kind of goes up and comes back down, up and back down. And the water pools in the middle of them. It's not great. Could the fire department get in there? Yeah. I think the Gray Rescue Department has gone in a couple of times this year. I know of at least once. I don't know if we know if they went in with an ambulance or if they went in with a truck or how they did that, but we do know that they went in for a call.
Our truck went to the Doorbirds.
Yeah.
Does he live by himself up there now? His parents still live there?
His mother is still alive.
Okay.
And there is a mobile home also on the lot that has at least one other person living in it. There may be two people living in that now. But the RV that was way down in the back that started all of this has been, I wouldn't say demolished because it's still there. However, it's definitely not livable. It's a pile of rubble at this point. So that situation is resolved. No one's living in that camper anymore. But now it is, unfortunately, part of the junkyard. But
Is that where his uncle used to live?
Is that who?
His uncle, Jared's uncle.
No, he's down in the front.
Okay.
So if you guys are feeling that he has done some significant improvements and that he is safe in the house, why don't we set up, how do you guys feel about setting up like a phase 2? You know what I mean? Like he's made the phase 1 done, and now we'll start working on phase 2 of it. Kathy?
My concern,
Kathy's like, darn, I know this.
Kathy Goslin, Health Officer. My concern on the house, which we've addressed with Jared, is he still has some unsafe electrical stuff that needs to be done.
Oh.
That needs to be a top priority. Like Alex was saying, he did a really good job of cleaning up. And one of the reasons he's cleaning up is because he's finding he's getting money back. And he admitted that, and he said, I'm not as pissed off at the town as I was before, you know? So, but he does have some electrical issues in the house that really need to be taken care of. I think other than that, that's really the biggest health and safety issue we have for inside the house.
So what's
There's
he
some
doing
smaller things.
So what's the stalling for the electrical issues to be fixed?
Finding an electrician to do it. He had a buddy that was gonna come do it who was an electrician, and I think it's just been, he's done some of the electrical, but there's still more left to do.
Well, in my opinion, you know, the electrical is more important than the cleanup.
No, well, I didn't know, yeah.
As long as you get, as long as from a safety standpoint, you can get a vehicle in there if need be and things like that, I think that's, you know, that's a good move forward. You know, I would put the emphasis on getting the electrical straightened out right now above the other, and, you know, make that, you know, it's still being watched, it's still gonna get taken care of, but if it gets done, you know, we all know what it's, what it's like trying to get people in to do anything right now. You know, you just, so there's gotta be some leeway on that, but from a safety standpoint, let's get the, see what needs to be done to be able to help him get the electricals squared around too.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, what he had told us was he was really trying to get as much of this outside stuff done before he isn't able to anymore, because he did know that October 1st deadline was approaching, so I think that's kind of where his focus has been. And we can make that clear to him that we want to make sure that that electrical stuff gets buttoned up here pretty quick. I don't think that'll be a problem. I mean, most of the stuff that's in there now, it's minor stuff. You know, he has a section that he needs to insulate and sheetrock, but I mean, it's, you know, overall we were watching it to make sure, because we knew he would get the place fixed up right off. And then our concern was, would it stay in that shape or that condition? And it seems to be as though it's holding, so that's good.
All right, so Dawn, do we need to do anything differently,
This is October 1st.
an addendum done to the order?
I did check with the attorney today, and you actually don't need to do anything. You don't even need to make a motion if you don't want to. Because essentially you're just not taking action on the order that you've already signed.
Well, the only issue I have with that is that's kind of gets us into how we got into some of where we are. And having an order that we're not enforcing. I would much rather amend the order than have an order that we're saying we're not going to enforce, because then it's okay. That's what got us into this situation.
Because it's so many years back that this has been going on.
I would need to check with Zach on that. He was pretty clear that it was to probably just stay as is, and just you guys don't take action on it. I would think that it can be amended.
I would think that you'd want to at least note that you've extended it or whatever.
Yeah.
I would do that, because I'm with Ralph. I think if you leave it open-ended, that's problematic.
Yeah.
So what if we make a motion to give him like till November 1st? It gives him at least another month and a half. Hopefully things are.
Well, the order right now
It's October
includes
1st.
both but it also includes the junkyard. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the electrical is resolved by, October 1st is probably out of the question, so call that November 1st, but the junkyard through till, say, July of next year.
Even, can I make a suggestion? October of next year, only because you've got to actually see this. I mean, he's taken a lot of the small stuff out. There's still, he's working on the vehicles now. There's probably 30 vehicles.
Oh yeah, at least.
You know, there's a locomotive, there's big pieces of equipment. He's selling some of those. But July 1st, it's going to be okay. May is when you're going to be able to get in there because it's wet, and it's just, as long as he's making progress. And what has happened in this process is Alex and myself, along with Wayne Jones, who's our fire inspector, go. And Jared's been fairly open with us after the first kind of rough start that we had. But he's been fairly open. He's like, come in, I'll show you what I've done. And then we follow up after each visit with a letter that says, we've noticed this, your next priority should be this, this, and this. And that seems to be working well.
Because you're not overwhelming them and
So
yeah.
I'm suggesting, as Rolf said, that we send him a letter to, say that this meeting's occurred and set the new deadline and make it a realistic deadline. You can debate what that is and continue the process.
Yes, with ongoing and
You may need to hold another public hearing and go through the whole process of notification and
Is
everything.
that what Phil said?
No, he didn't say that, but it's going to, I'm assuming it's going to be a new order, because there isn't really, you can't really amend this, because you've essentially said this is the deadline. And I think if you do a new order, you're gonna have to do a new dangerous buildings public hearing, do the notifications, the civil service of the letter, go through that. It's probably gonna be another $1,000, I'd say, to do that. Which is why I think the attorney said just leave it as is, but why don't I check on that? I can get that information tomorrow. Let you guys know.
They can set the date nonetheless.
Yeah,
It's just a question of whether you notice him or not of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you guys can totally set the date. I don't know if we would have a new written order for that, but we can find that out.
Well, we can always put it on the October agenda too. You know what I mean? Because he's
Yes.
only so far, so if the information you can find out, bring it back to us for October, and then we can do whatever.
Yeah.
Decide then.
Do you want to do that?
Okay. All right, so, yeah,
Okay.
November 1st, if we can, just, yeah, if you guys talk to him. All right. All right. You're also doing consideration of Mark Childs to the planning board.
Yeah, Mark is here. If you'd like to
Hi.
talk to him.
You go up to the, because this is being recorded at home right now, at all the homes.
Mark Childs from Tenny Hill. Just a little background on myself. Work for Barrett Maine Architecture and Construction as a senior project manager. I always wanted to be part of the planning board because I like to be a part of keeping Raymond great. And there was an opening, and it's kind of that simple. It's like I'd love to do that. So that's about it.
Anybody have any questions for him?
Have you done much on the shoreline zoning stuff before, or?
Absolutely, yep. I was a contractor myself for a while, built a couple homes. Worked with Skiavi a couple years back, and we did tons of lake homes in Gray, up in Norway. Very familiar with the shoreline zones. Built on Sebago, a couple buildings. Very familiar with codes, RC, construction processes and standards.
I move to appoint Mark Childs to the planning board.
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
for
stepping up.
I think Sue will have to swear at you at some point.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks.
Teresa, sorry, I forgot to mention that I'll have the warrants available for the board to circulate in and sign tomorrow, probably about 11 o'clock. I
Okay.
should have everything into the system. I totally forgot to mention.
Nope, good, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kurt.
All right, Alex, back up again. CEO permits updates. Can you also give an update on that car dealership on 302?
Yes. You want me to start with that?
Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of cars down there.
So, I can't remember if I gave you guys the update last time that they were moving. Did I
No,
tell
you
you
told
that?
me about it, but
Okay, so after the meeting, I went down basically the next day and said, listen guys, what's going on? There's like 50 cars here at this point. And I did speak with the owner, and he said, yeah, basically we're leaving town. They've decided to relocate to another town. I don't know if it was their decision, the landlord's decision. I don't know any of the backstory behind that. Basically, what the story I got was they have a hauler that they haul cars out with. People drop cars off. Other companies drop junk cars off. They haul cars out with their hauler. Their hauler's broken down. So that's why, unless they sell a car or someone comes and buys a car from them, and takes it out of the junkyard, it stays, which is why the cars are piling up. The story I got was that the hauler would be fixed in the next few days and they would start to be moving cars to their new location. So I gave it a week or two, kept watching
a couple weeks.
Yeah, I went down the end of last week and was hoping to see most of the cars gone. Hasn't happened. So now we'll do the NOV because it seems as though it's been, they said they were going to be out by the end of the month, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen unless they move everything out real quick. But at the pace it's going, I don't think it's going to happen. So we'll just go forward with the notice of violation and we'll just see what happens.
I just noticed a lot more cars that are lined up there now, and you look back, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping it would resolve itself, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So.
Okay.
So we'll go that route. I did get that going. That should be done this week. So we'll get that delivered to them, sent to them through certified mail. And that'll basically say they have 30 days to get within compliance.
Okay.
Which is under 20 cars. So.
All right.
Do you want me to run through this? You guys, it was in the packet, so I don't want to bore you guys with unnecessary information, but I can give you a general overview if you want.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a general overview is good because that gets it out on the tape.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, I do this every quarter. This was specifically April through June, which is usually one of the busier. Usually April through July and July through beginning of October. That's kind of the two busier quarters of the year. So we were kind of pretty much on with on pace with 2020. We were up on a few of the different permits and down by a couple on one or two of them. But overall, we're kind of staying ahead of where we were previous years. 2019 for the last 7 years, I think I've gone back. 2019 is still the record year. I think we'll probably come close to touching it this year with permits issued. That's permits issued. Permit revenue, we did have a couple big permits that quarter, so you'll notice it's double of what it was the previous year. All it takes is a couple big mansion renovations, and the permit revenues go up quite a bit. The renovation permits are usually the more expensive ones. So if you have $1 million or $2 million renovation for a house, the permit fee is pretty high. So I think that's what we experienced. We had one not too far from here that was a pretty substantial renovation. The rest of it, we had quite a few projects close out. You can see there's a pretty substantial list of COs issued. And that's common for the spring because a lot of the camps are done in the winter and they like to have them finished and ready to go for use in the spring. And then I think we're at right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we're at 6 open violations as of July 1st. We've added a couple more since, which would be on the next quarterly report, but and we've dropped off I think a couple of these. Obviously the big news, Chris started last week, and it was basically hit the ground running day one. So I blocked off a few hours in the morning for him to say hi to everyone, and then his schedule's been pretty much full ever since. And he right now has been focusing mostly on enforcement. So he's been doing backlog of complaints and some other violations that we've had on a list. I think we had a list about 30 or so long of violations around town that I was aware of. So he's been focusing on that, and we're crossing those off the list. Which, now that we've ramped up enforcement, it's going to, the log jam just kind of keeps moving. So, now we may see ZBA be a little bit busier. There may be some administrative appeals, and that's, when people appeal a notice of violation. You guys will probably likely be seeing, some enforcement stuff coming your way within the next 6 months, I would guess. We've got a couple that may elevate to that status here pretty quick. we're able to kind of take care of most of them, but there's a few that may end up in front of you guys. And that's pretty much it right now. We're definitely, it's been busy. We've changed a lot in the last 3 weeks. A lot.
Good, good, wow.
For good. It's good. It's all good stuff.
It is.
But,
This is crazy.
I've been able to get instantaneous relief as the super code secretary when people elevate their concerns to me.
Yeah.
I'm able to walk down the hall and get engagement instantly now, which is nice.
So yeah, essentially what's happened is Chris is doing everything out of the office. So I've had 0 out of the office inspections or appointments so far this week. We're day 1 really. I have 1 scheduled for tomorrow, but that's it for the week. So for the rest of the day, I'm in the office, where normally I was out. So I would be out of the office 5 or 6 times a day. I'd be in the office 4 hours, out of the office 5 hours. It's really freed up a lot of time for me to be there. So what Dawn's saying is, if
We
you
can
get
send
someone,
Chris instantly out to get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah,
People that come in can see somebody in there.
So we're scheduling 3 or 4 days out in some situations for inspections. Now we're scheduling same day, next day, always.
Wow.
So, yeah, and we're only a weekend. We started a week ago, so.
But people want service. We're in the service business, and it's very busy, and and it's good to be able to deliver that kind of service. And the violation thing is another thing. It's important to uphold the integrity of the ordinances, and that's what we're doing. And I've had a number of things, as you know. You've got some things. I've got some things on my mind, and so we've communicated those to him. He's on those. He's very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
And the in-office presence, people coming in, walk-ins, welcome, and to have you there and you've been spending time with citizens, walking them through the process of their various projects, renovations, new permits. That's what we do, and I'm really happy, and I think it's a great move that we've got him, and I appreciate the support of the Board of Selectmen, and I think we're, as I say, fortunate to have him. And how long we have him, I don't know, but that'll be another thing. As he, retires from Wyndham and comes to us, and so while we do have him, though, I think we're going to make the most of this.
It's exciting. It's good to see the department is now being run the way it really should be at this point. Because before it was, we weren't able to enforce the ordinances we have. Which, why do you have them if you can't enforce them? So
well, the problem was between the crush and new work and the violations that happen on a regular basis, and people who, unfortunately, we have people who do things without the benefit of a permit. That's the violation piece, unreported and reported. You were overwhelmed.
Oh yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot more coming our way because Wyndham is just crazy right now. It really is. Do you guys have any plans about the water?
What's that?
Do you guys have any plans about the water on Sebago Lake? Checking that out?
Yes.
You don't have to say more if you don't want to.
No, there's, like I said, we have a list about 30 or so long of stuff that we know about, and we're adding to that daily. We cross stuff off, we add stuff to it.
Okay.
It's there's going to be no shortage of work as far as the violations go. A lot of it is, we had one today that Chris spent an hour or 2 on, or probably an hour, was a flip that they just didn't get permits on. So now we got to go back and start with them all over from square one and after the fact permit everything, which would have been much easier for us if they had just gotten the permits from the start, because now it's a little bit more work. They have to pay a double permit fee, so there is a little bit of a penalty to that, as well as the headache of probably having to delay a closing or possibly lose a sale. So it's stuff like that that shows up unannounced. That's a real estate agent coming in, looking at a file and saying, they just renovated this entire house and the last permit in here is from 2003. And then we have to reroute the entire day to try and, help them resolve the situation. So.
Do you see how he locals Chris? He sends him out to be the bad guy, and Alex.
Yep.
Yeah, you say a little penalty. That's double permit fee.
Yeah.
Double permit fee. It might end up being, it might have been a $1,500 permit. Now it's going to be $3,000.
Right, and in the they know that when they did that, they knew what they were doing. They did that with intent. So.
But a $3,000 permit on a $700,000 house is
right.
Very minor. I mean, that's less than the commission they're gonna pay for the real estate agent, so.
Right, right.
Alex, thank you for this report.
Yeah, no
This is
problem.
great.
Any questions?
I don't. You guys?
Raymond only grew by 100 people in the last decade. Are we gonna see 100 people move in this year?
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
The planning board has granted preliminary approval for a 26 unit development off of 85. That's still probably 6 months out before it's
At the bottom.
ready to go.
Where's that?
You know where, right at the bottom, there's the water main came up so far,
Yeah.
only maybe like a quarter mile in.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, and it's on, as you're going down 85, it's on the left-hand side.
Yeah, so the
outlet?
entrance to it will be around
No,
20,
below that.
25. Webbs Mills Road, I think, is roughly where the driveway is, so it's
I
pretty
mean,
close.
That was contemplated a number of years ago, and then the water main went there, and then the economy went, and
Yeah.
it went.
Yep, so it's back, and that's, you know, probably 6 months out from being done. We have another 9-lot subdivision that's, it's probably middle stage of approval. That's probably gonna be done in the next 6 months. So if the market stays the way it is, I think both of those will be moving. Rolling Brook is now under construction. I mean, we've issued 6 or 7 permits for new single-family homes in there.
I know that they're advertising
last 2
all the
months.
time for new homes over there, yeah.
Yeah,
Which one's Rolling Brook?
that's up
One-
near Casco.
Yeah, 121,
Yeah.
Plains Road, it's almost right there. There's
Okay.
that street that goes in.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What
Okay.
about Chase? I know they have a couple,
Yep, so that's Chase, and then they also have Valley View, I believe it's called, on Valley Road.
Right.
John says they plan on starting that subdivision in 6 months, so
okay.
we'll see. That one does have a sunset provision, so it would expire if they don't start within a certain amount of time. And then we have Tenny Hill Extension, which is, I believe, an 8-lot subdivision that they've built one house in. They're looking to build the rest of that out. So
Will that go into
realistically,
Casco?
what's that?
Will that go into Casco,
Nope.
Tenny One? Nope.
Nope,
Okay.
that's all. It's on basically the town line, but all
Okay.
of the houses are in Raymond. So,
Wow.
you know, I mean, there's a possibility we could see at least 30 to 50. I think we will see at least 30 to 50,
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
not including
yeah.
some of the renovations.
Growing, so. All right.
Great.
Thank you,
And
Alex.
all,
you.
the comment I would make though is, although you are not seeing, you know, exponential growth in year-round population, I think post-reval, you're going to see the tail of the tape when you see what's happened to the value, because a lot of what's happening in Raymond is happening with the seasonal properties.
Yes, and Wyndham having a growth ordinance, and Westbrook also has some limitations in place for limiting residential growth. A lot of that's moving this way. So.
Well, yeah, well, now it's seeing it come our way, but I think if you look at what's happened over the last 10 years, and what's happened possibly without benefit of permit and other ways things have happened.
You mean like conversion of seasonal
I mean,
houses?
like,
Yeah.
let's wait and see what happens after reval. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Various methods of renovation and things that have occurred.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes. There'll be other measures that'll come into play that will show you some measures of growth, I think.
All right, consideration of new road name, Meridian Lane.
And Kayla couldn't be here tonight, so I told her I would speak to it. It's a driveway off Myron Hall Road, and this is more to kind of unconfuse that so that it's much easier for emergency personnel to get up there and to understand where they're going.
We have to
It's
accept the
a
name
driveway.
change.
Second?
All in favor? All right. Okay, consideration of annual update to general assistance ordinance. Jenny? Hello.
I wasn't gonna do that.
I can do it if you want.
Oh, okay.
I wrote the letter
So,
And it
Good
was
seeing
a
you
nice
here
letter.
Yes.
you want me to do this, Jenny?
and, yeah, cause I didn't bring any of the papers.
So basically, every year, the Maine Municipal Association puts out a model ordinance, and they do a survey of the cost of basic necessities by county and give us an outline of those. And so, rather than us do all of that effort and work ourselves, we adopt the model ordinance of MMA and the recommendations that they make for the maximums for general assistance, basic necessities, commodities. And so, you need to certify that ordinance, model ordinance, and their recommendations for assistance levels.
I'll make a motion to accept the ordinance
Second.
changes.
And I think Jenny filled out the form for you, the cover
Yeah.
form.
Yep.
All in favor? All right.
Nice job, Jenny.
I like to delegate.
All right, public comment. Would you like to say anything?
Oh, no. Oh, no, no.
All right, no public comment? Selectmen comment? Nope. Okay, there is, never mind. I was gonna say, how are we gonna figure out what to say? So we're all saying the same thing regarding the RSU, but never mind. All right, town manager's report.
Okay, so I was gonna give you a report on the new assistant CEO. We already done that once, we crossed that off. We've set up, or Kathy specifically has set up the ARPA portals. Kathy, I should tell you, as long as we're recognizing people, has done a great job throughout the pandemic in a number of ways, but she's been kind of our go-to person on a lot of grants, and as you know, she did a great job in securing grants to support the food pantry. She stepped up most recently on the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan, and she's setting up the portal along with Cherise, and Rita's been involved, I'm involved, and so we're waiting now to see if we get our money, around $500,000, and so that's in play, and it's coming to us. Rolf will appreciate this one with all deliberate municipal speed. It's coming, right?
Supposed to get half now and half
Right.
in another year.
Yeah, so we should get that pretty soon, and we should get word as to whether our plan has been accepted, and then we'll bring that back for selectmen approval once that occurs. Right? So that's happening, and she's not here tonight, but I told her I was going to recognize her, and I also want to thank Rolf. He's been kind of our go-to person for interview panels. We have those all the time now. I like that process. Adopted that way of selecting people maybe 30 years ago. We start with a preliminary panel comprised usually of the department head, if it's a staff person, or if not, it's usually the HR director. Often the HR director, anyhow. Maybe somebody who's a professional in the field, elected official, sometimes usually one of the selectmen, or maybe a professional from another community. So we do that for our first round. Second round is usually the HR director and the town manager. But we've been successful lately. We got our new finance director, thankfully, and we have our assistant ACO, and we also got our Parks and Recreation Public Works foreman. So we have all of our main positions that we were trying to filled, which is amazing in this market. And so, while I'm making a bit of an announcement, we are, still seeking candidates. Though we're seeking a full-time paramedic firefighter, and we're seeking per diem firefighter EMTs. And that's really urgent. So Bruce wanted me to make sure that we got that out, and those ads are running now. And so hopefully we'll get some candidates there. But I wanted to call out Rita Terrio, who has done a really great job with the HR function, and she's also been somebody. Along with Lori Ann Wilson, who's the finance director in New Gloucester, who has kept us running while we had our previous finance director depart and waiting for our new finance director. So although Rita can't watch local access TV and she's not here, I wanted to thank her for her work in the HR function, and also in keeping us going on the finance front.
She gave up her vacation week to come in and help.
And she gave up vacation to come in and help, and she's really done a great job. So thank you, Rita. And things are going really great. We're back to being staffed up, and we're getting ready for winter. I sent you a picture of Nate's new truck, which is about I think he said it was $108,000. So we got about half of that from the town of Casco, roughly, a little less than half of that for the old one, and so he's getting ready for winter. And believe it or not, that's just about here again. So things are going well, as Rolf pointed out. I mean, despite the pandemic, we're in good shape financially. So that's always nice.
Yes.
And that's enough, I guess, for tonight.
Good.
For me.
You confirm the dates for meetings?
Confirm the dates. Okay. October 12th and November 9th.
But now we also have October 4th and
October 5th, right. And then we have the upcoming holiday schedule, October 11th, Columbus Day.
All right.
Okay.
Good. All right. Can I have? Are you good on those dates? motion to go into executive session, consideration of poverty abatement request.
Make a motion to go into executive session under Title I, Section 4056F.
And 841 OE. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right.
A
Hi
move-
there.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor? All right.
A decision was made to have Dawn look at the community
Assistance fund.
assistance fund and use some money for that in the amount we agreed to help resolve 2 years' worth of the taxes on there.
Can I have a second?
Oh, do you need a motion?
You just,
That was the motion.
Okay.
Oh,
Second.
all in favor? Okay. Have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?